Good morning, everybody. I've been digging through my closet. My daughter's been asking me what I'm wearing to her wedding and keeps suggesting buying new clothes. But you know something? I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I have a dress that I'm going to wear. I'm going to give her one of three choices. And I'm going to post a picture of that, I think, on my community page and get you guys to vote because I think I know exactly what I'm wearing, but I'm going to have to research it. So this morning I got a lot of stuff to talk about. I mean, a ton stuff. Oh, what's going on? It's sunny and got a hike plans. Oh, good. I'm going to have to get out and do some stuff myself today. I've got to look for my Easter decorations. I've got to sort my keys because one of my children has asked me for a complete set of keys to my house, to the guest house, to the front gates, and directions to get here, just in case something goes haywire and they have to come here in a hurry. So I got to do that. Got to figure out what I'm wearing for this wedding. My daughter says buy a dress. I just went online and looked at 6 different places I normally buy clothing from, and I'm not seeing anything that I'm liking that's nice enough for a wedding. And I know I have at least 3 dresses that are nice enough for a wedding here already that I rarely wear because they're pretty formal for Costa Rica. Okay. And I've had to do plumbing today, so I'm going to have to go back out and finish my plumbing work or talk to the husband and say, you've got to hire another plumber. That's all there is to it. The last one didn't do a damn thing. So I want to talk about a subject that's been on my mind for a couple of months. Well, more than a couple of months. Thank you. It's actually a dress. It's a cheap little dress I bought over at Cracker Barrel right before I got here. And I keep forgetting I have it. And now I find it in my closet and go, why haven't I worn that? Why haven't I worn that lately? It's one of those comfortable, just all cotton ones that you just throw on when you don't feel like putting clothing on. Okay, and it's already pretty hot out there. It's like 95, and it's only 10 a.m. So that's Costa Rica this time of the year. I want to talk a little bit about the Carol Baskin thing and the Don Lewis. The reason I want to talk about just a hair before I segue into what I really want to talk about, which is about Costa Rica as well, is that Tiger King 2 showed a document from Homeland Security that said that he was alive. Well, I have questions. First of all, they never showed the date on that document. Second of all, Homeland Security wasn't even a thing until 2002. So if that document was pre-2002, I don't believe it. Second of all, I can tell you, I'm about 99% sure he's not in Bagaces. Bagaces is not that far from here. Somebody would have ratted his ass out if he was alive Sarah. Carol Baskin is claiming that Don is alive, and he is in Costa Rica. It's possible that he's alive in Costa Rica because one of the Ticos in Tiger King 2, the Ticos, the Costa Ricans that were speaking in Spanish, he was saying that Don was here, Don was alive, that Don had showed up with giant boxes of cash and transferred almost all of his money in cash. If that's true, Don could be in for a whole lot of hot water with the Costa Rican government. That's why I'm not believing it, because there are worse places to hide out, Bossy, but I'm pretty sure that he's not in Costa Rica. I feel it's likely he's not in this area. He's not in Guanacaste, which is where Bagaces is. Guanacaste is mostly rural. And you know how it is in small towns, small southern towns. Everybody talks, and nobody has said anything remotely like that. There's no U.S. extradition. I don't think I don't know if he's done any crimes in the U.S. Disappearing is not a crime as far as I know. Sunny side up. Okay, you got to watch Tiger King. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. I watched the first episode, and then I waited 6 months before I watched the rest of them because I was so upset by seeing the way they were taking care of the tigers, because I worked in animal rescue. My first job out of high school was working at the zoo, cleaning out cages and things. So that's just none of these people should be running a rescue of anything. I'm just going to tell you that right now. Yeah, I can understand, but they're saying he's alive. At least Carol is claiming Homeland Security told her he was alive. Well, we saw the Homeland Security document in Tiger King 2 saying that he's probably alive. Well, he's alive in Costa Rica. If he's here, he's bound to be under a fake name, fake passport. And if he transported all that cash here without declaring it, and he was really here, the Costa Rican government would be on him like white on rice to take their share, to take their cut. Because I can't tell you much about it here, but here's one thing I can tell you. The Costa Rican government, the aduana, they don't play. Like I said before, they seized 2/3 of our household goods because of a clerical error. You're moving to the DMV. Oh, bossy, you'll have to hang out. We'll have to hang out sometime once you move there. I heard that. I heard that Jeff Lowe and his wife ran a circus in Italy. I don't know what the rules on animal treatment and welfare are in Italy, but here they're stringent. They're strict, very strict. So he was going to come here and start up and big cat rescue, according to what Carol was saying. So if he's here, I'm thinking he's probably somewhere in the greater San Jose area, because it would be very easy to disappear on a fake. It would be very, very, very easy to live on a fake passport here. And there are some things they don't bug you about if you're a gringo. I cannot tell you how many gringos I know. I should pull out my passport and show you. You're supposed to leave every 90 days unless you are a resident. And I can't see that Don would have filed for residency, because to file for residency, you have to provide you have to, not just your passport, you have to provide your birth certificate, any marriage and or divorce papers. You have to get an FBI report saying that you're not a criminal. Okay, a passport, he's got that fake one. Those other documents would be really hard to fake. Not only would it be hard to fake, but you have to become a resident. You have to get a special stamp on them called an apostille. And it has to be officially translated by an official translator that they'll accept. Well, see, I couldn't do that. Coming here, I gotta be frank, it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I didn't even have this hard of a transition when I moved from Louisiana, South Louisiana, to Europe, because South Louisiana is almost European in its flavor and how we do things there. So for me, it was an easier transition than moving from Northern Virginia to Costa Rica. That was a hard transition. We did some things right. We did some things wrong. That's why I started writing my book about moving here. But then COVID came along and changed all the rules. So if Don Lewis is here on a fake passport, I can't imagine that, unless he's doing like a lot of people I know, where they take their passports. Let me see if I can grab my passport. I'm not going to show all the details, but I'll show you this at least. This is a non-identifiable thing. It's yeah, my purse. Wrong passport. That's his. This is mine. U.S. passport. Okay, every 90 days, you have to leave the country and come back in and get passport stamps. You're supposed to here in Costa Rica unless you're a resident. I've applied once to be a resident here and went through all those steps I'm telling you, which were expensive and difficult. I had to run around and get all of those things that I'm talking about and apply. And it was expensive. It's about $3,000. COVID hit within about a month and a half, 2 months after we filed. And they shut down the Costa Rican government and they kicked every application out that was not semi-approved. If you were far along in the process, they didn't kick you out. But if you're just beginning like we were, they kicked you out and you're just out that money. So, hey, Tracy, they're going to have to, if Jeff is here, Don, if Don is here, then he's going to have to scramble to get the correct passport stamps. He's going to have to do like so many and just fake it, which is to make a photocopy of that passport stamp and just carry the photocopy around with and say, hey, I'm here legally. This is the last time I was here. This is the last time I was not. So I'm thinking that he's not really here. I've gone back and forth on this. I've flip-flopped. I've said he's not here. He's here. He's not here. That first Tico that was speaking on the Tiger King, the elderly gentleman that ran the farm seemed credible, but the other one seemed like what I would call a scamming Tico. Somebody who will say whatever you will want to hear for money, or just because they didn't want to upset you. And he was telling some tales of Don bringing all that money in, doing all these different things. If Don had really done that, and he was running here on a fake passport, he's not going to be able to get the passport renewed, number one. He's not going to be able to go do the border thing and get the correct stamps. There's just no way, because he'll get caught. So he can't apply for residency because it would be, no, Tracy, I've decided I don't think he's alive. And I'm explaining because of the difficulties of being a gringo here. Even though I'm going to say this, I know people who have let their passports expire and just stayed here. And I don't know how they get away with that, because there are times they're going to pull you over and ask you for your passport. If they see you're a gringo, they will say, we got to see your passport. And that passport he possesses is very likely he'd be unable to renew it. We know damn good and well he's not doing the 90-day run, because he'd get caught eventually on a fake passport or going back and forth. And there's no way he would ever be able to be a resident. Tracy, dollars. Dollars go a long way here. And he might be able to bribe his way out. I mean, most police here are not opposed to taking a little money here and there. I've seen that happen. I've had them ask me for money, and I've said no and driven away because I haven't done anything wrong, and they know they can't ticket me, so I won't show them my passport. Blah blah blah. Marriott, friends and family. You know, there's a Marriott here, Saturn. There's a really nice Marriott subdivision and restaurant and hotel here that we go to sometimes. Yeah, I'm thinking he's not alive. He's not alive. Baskin and whoever, because I don't know if his kids had him declared deceased and cashed the insurance policy, or what happened. But I think that he's probably not alive any longer. And I don't know what the status of his property is in Bagaces. I know that the cantons here are very slow about taking properties for not paying the taxes. They're very slow about that. She had him declared deceased. Okay, so that would force the insurance companies to release the insurance monies unless they could prove that something squishy had gone on. She filed the day after this to release the insurance monies unless they could prove that something squishy had gone on. She filed the day after the 7-day period. Oh my God. I hadn't watched Tiger King 1 in so long. I couldn't tell you all the details on that, but the whole thing just sounded fishy to me. And then to find out that Homeland Security supposedly told her he was alive in Costa Rica, and knowing what I know about living here, it would not be impossible, but it would be hard for him to live here all those years without tip in his hand is who it was. His plane, somebody, if nothing else, would be after him about that. You can't indefinitely park a plane even at a banana strip here. So he would have had to have a big enough piece of land to hide his plane, put his plane on so nobody be bugging him for parking fees. And I just find it suspicious that the entire plane has disappeared. Nobody's seen the plane. There's so many things. Nobody in Bagasis has seen him. Now, Carol was throwing some shade saying that he would go to San Jose and sleep with underage prostitutes. Tracy, I don't know. I don't know if that's what happened, but let me tell you something. I would put nothing past any of those people. Anybody that would keep animals in those deplorable conditions, those tiny cages, and exploit them for money is not a nice person. I'm just going to come right out and just throw that out there. That's why I had such a hard time watching Tiger King 1 and almost as hard of a time watching Tiger King 2 because my heart is always with animals. If you know, you hear me talk about animals here all the time. The whole stray cat colony I'm feeding, the whole host of Noah's Ark that shows up on my property. They are all nuts, all of them. Bossy, I think you have to be nuts to warehouse animals like that. I think there has to be some nuts going on. Yeah. So, yeah, Marriott's not that easy. So let's see what happens with this. Okay, Saturdays, that's cool. Good morning, Jan. Well, here's the thing. Book club, I'm gonna say this about meat grinders. One of my first jobs was working at a restaurant, and we had a giant meat grinder. We ground meat all the time there in the back, and you would be surprised what you could put through the maw of those great meat grinders. You can grind quite a few things up rather fine. Now, thigh bones and stuff might be a little more difficult, but a hand, you could probably run that right through. So missing holiday, birthdays, life. Yeah, it is. It's tough. It is so tough when you do that. I can't tell you the tears I've shed because I haven't been able to be with my daughter for her wedding planning. The best I could do is be a buffer between her and her father because of course she wants her princess wedding and he doesn't want to let go of the money. And I said, look, we're not hurting for money, so please pay for this poor child's wedding. So going back to these are people who exploit animals for a living. This is what they do. They exploit animals. They think nothing of exploiting those animals under the guise of rescue. I've got to check out and see what happened with Doc Antle because it seemed like he was also just as bad as Carol, and Joe Exotic was one of the worst I've ever seen. When I saw that part where they were taking expired meat from Walmart to feed the big cats, I almost shut off the TV then. It was just too much. It's just too weird. Hey, Lola. So I got to veer real quick and say one thing. I'm not going to do much Katie Joy content anymore, but I do have to say this. I've had contact recently with 2 production companies that want to do a series on Katie Joy, and I think it's going to be Tiger King like. It's going to be an expose. My daughter is 30, soon to be 31, and she was waited to get married. No, I haven't seen that. She's waited to get married until she's 30. She was just, from the time she was small, it was like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, and then I'll get married, and maybe I'll have children. So she has relentlessly worked her list, and now she's at, I'm getting married. So I want to encourage her. Roadkill. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That's wild. They would not have tolerated my privacy. I'm married in the medical field. He's luckily understood, but times were still hard. Oh, yeah. Doc Andel is a creep, but I'm going to watch that special. I haven't seen it. I haven't been, our fire stick died, so we've been kind of stuck, but I've got one now that's working. I can't wait to see the documentary. Same, if they do it. People I would talk to are in the planning stages. They wanted to know where to go look crazy. I pointed them to Reddit. I pointed them other places. I pointed them to other people. So hopefully they do this. The truck meet in the meth lab. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That is crazy, book club, that you would meet somebody doing that. 29. Okay. My daughter just got married at 54 and having her first baby at 35. Yep. Congratulations, Jan. Most definitely. I'm thinking probably in 2 or 3 years we're going to see a grandchild, but I kind of hope so. I'd like to have grandkids eventually. So I wanted to talk about another thing real quick. Okay. I wanted to talk about how easy it is to scam people in Costa Rica, the scammers. There are people here that you have to be careful of. About a year ago, shortly after I left my church, which I started leaving it in January, not January, June. So it's been maybe 6 months, maybe not a year. Somebody put me on to the fact that somebody I knew, and I knew well here in Costa Rica, that arrived the same week we arrived in Tamarindo, was a con artist on a large scale. One of the things about Costa Rica, if you're a gringo with money, they'll let you get away with a lot. So if Don was here, like I said, there are some legal things that he'd be really hard pressed to overcome. But hiding yourself as a scammer or under a fake identity is really not that hard here. This couple, I've been watching and making notes ever since I discovered like 6 or 8 months ago what scammers they are. Tracy, it does. I have people have told me that before. This sounds like Brazil and other places down here. I'm just going to call this couple Tim and Terry. I'm not going to expose what their real names are, but I've been taking notes, and this would make an excellent book because it's come out how scammy they are. What they do is their shtick is they start schools. They start private schools, and then they turn around. And at the end of 2 to 3 years, everybody in that particular community is up in arms about them and calling them con artists and exploiters and all these other things. And then they faff off and create a school somewhere else, far, far away. Well, they came here, and we met them actually the first day we were in Tamarindo when we moved here in the economy car rental place. And we started talking to them because they were not within our age group. At least I'm the same age as the man and the woman, Tim and Terry. And they seemed quite nice. A couple of months later, we were all friends. We hung out at each other's houses. I spent some time with them. I thought they were really nice people. Terry was trying to get me to write a book of school regulations because of how difficult it is to scare up all the information from all the school boards all over the U.S. And I just told her I wasn't really interested in that kind of technical writing, but it was definitely a thought. And we went to church with them. We were friends with them, the whole 9 yards. Yes, Tracy, except I found out they started their school here, and I went and supported them initially. I went to the fundraisers. I went to everything. I went and looked at their school the first week it was actually in session. And I remember thinking then that this was a little laissez-faire, loosey-goosey for me. I am teaching solids, teaching solids. But you have to understand, I went to Catholic school for some years. My husband is teach the solids too, but he went to British boarding school for a while. So both of us have experienced something besides public school in the States. And I've also gone to public school, and my kids went to a highly rated public school where we lived that was good. So Tim and Terry came. They started this weird little school, and then the weird little school exploded. They built a $1 zillion house in one of the beachfront communities here. They lived within 5-minute walking distance from the beach. I was happy for them. I was happy they had their nice house and their smaller than us pool, and didn't think anything more of it. I saw them at church. Hey, how you doing? Played on worship team with Tim. Tim's stepmother is quite famous. She comes here to Tamarina. She owns a house here. She's another celebrity that hangs out here. It was cool meeting her because it was somebody that I actually looked up to. And things went well for a while. Well, then I started hearing rumblings about the time I left church. And Terry had made it to the church board. And Terry was one of the people I was talking to about the situation with the dog. And Terry lied to me a number of times about whether or not the board had met or had taken actions or whatever. So that was my first little, hey, this is kind of crazy. So I was talking to another friend of mine who lived here and then went back and said, I don't know what to think about this church because blah, blah, this happened on the board. This was told to me. This didn't happen. And she said, beware. I did just flex my pool, Janine. We have one of the biggest ones outside of a hotel here because my husband was obsessional about having a huge pool. So we spent a ton of money. We put in this pool that is like, I think our pool is like 10 meters by 4.5 or some ridiculous length. So swimming and walking in the pool is something that's awesome. I'm going to go do that in a few minutes. It's the first time I've been able to get in the pool in like 3 months because I don't have an open wound or an open IV or anything like that. So I did flex my pool, but they have the most beautiful house, including a house where they had a glass wall that you could just open it without. We have that sort of. We have some glass walls you can open, but they're more old school. They're not like theirs. Lola, that's the thing. You can't determine that. You cannot determine that at all from the documents I've seen, what year they're claiming he moved to Costa Rica. He could have been in some other Latin American country. He could have been in some other Latin American country that with less stringent guidelines, let's say Mexico, for a while too. So there is so much about Don Lewis's disappearance that is still up in the air, no matter what Homeland Security said. Costa Rican government, their police agency has said he's not here. They're still saying that. So these people built this fancy house. They started the school, and the school now, about a year ago, I started hearing rumblings about Tim and Terry. And my friend from the States who'd been here said, beware. And I said, why? And she said, they're being sued by X, Y, and Z. So I started doing some digging here, and they had a ton of denuncias against them. They were being sued. They'd sued other people. It was just ugly, 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 ugly. And I'm not saying what their last name is because I'm going to follow this all the way through, and I'm going to tell you about this because this is crazy. So I started doing some digging, and I talked to people who had filed these denuncias. They had been threatening to take custody of people's children because of things at the school, and not for legitimate reasons, not for the reasons that you would call social services. I don't know what the law says in here in Costa Rica, but I know if you're in the States and you are any kind of job that does anything with children, you are a mandatory reporter. So you have to report anything. And what I mean by that is abuse and neglect. They weren't reporting abuse and neglect. They were threatening to make up crap and report it, saying, wait a minute, if you are going to take your child out of the school and homeschool them, I'm going to have your child taken away, that sort of thing. Yes. Well, I used to work for CPS, so it depends upon who's working there and how they view things as to whether CPS is horrible. Some of them are. Yeah, they're real bad guys disguised as a school. So then I started doing some research to figure out why if they were so successful at starting all these schools, who they were. I found bankruptcies. I found that their pattern, that they'd started 5 schools in the US, their pattern is to start a school, join a local church, infiltrate themselves in, and then run the damn thing into the ground and then turn around and sell it. So they're not as successful as they're pretending. They're running from multiple lawsuits. They have a school in Texas. They have a school in Washington State near Seattle, I guess. And they were involved with the Mars Hill split, I found out. So I found out just so much stuff and through some of my evangelical world contacts, even. So we're all kind of circling the same thing. So I don't know for sure what's going to happen now, but it was announced this week they're building a school near San Jose and they're decamping from this area and selling their $1 zillion house. So it's all very interesting. And I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be watching the San Jose area school and I'm going to be monitoring for anything like that. Book club. Is the husband's real name Jim? Let's just put it that way. Because it may be, but these people are con artists. They're con artists of the first water. They have an appearance of wealth. They wiggle in. They wreck communities. They wreck families. Yes, Mars Hill. They were heavily involved with Mars Hill and the Mars Hill split. That was the shock. I knew they'd been members at Mars Hill. They told me that when I first met them when we were yakking about church. But I'm not entirely sure about some of the other churches. It's not Waldorf. We do have a Waldorf school here. We do have one, and it's pretty. I looked at their curriculum and saw what they were teaching. I was like, whoa, not impressed with Waldorf. But these people, they don't follow any known curriculum. They've made theirs up as they're going along. So they just scam. They don't take the kids. I've seen them do that once. And that's a girlfriend of mine she had mental problems. And she also had substance abuse issues. But instead of the community trying to help her and the church trying to help her, they just turned their back on her. It was pretty vile to see. And she lost custody of her 15-year-old son to Tim and Terry, who had the child going to school on a scholarship. They turned on her and went to CPS and got custody, which was easy here, apparently, because the way CPS works here is if they seize a gringo child, they will look for a gringo foster home. They won't just release them usually to a Costa Rican family because of the fact, the language barrier, everything else. They don't like to do that. And I can see why, too. So they got custody of her son. They also have children from disrupted adoptions. And I don't mean that they went to a foster care agency and got these kids. These are the kind of disrupted adoptions that people are advertising online, like on Facebook, on different online groups. Evangelicals who will adopt kids from foreign countries, and then after 2 years and realizing that love and Jesus don't cure everything, just abandon the kids to whoever wants them. They have like 3 of those. The poor mother, no, she's not okay. She has problems, most definitely. I don't know for sure what's going on with her because she blocked me on Facebook after I told her she needed help and because she was spamming me crazy. She reached out to my husband last week. She did. And here's the good thing about all of this. They had issues with her child. They had lots of issues. And you have to think this poor 14, 15-year-old boy was raised in a household with a mother who had mental health issues and substance abuse struggles. They took custody of him. Eventually, because he was acting out with them, they gave over custody to another family I know here who are decent. And they had problems with him and turned him over to his natural father who lives in Limon, which is the other side of the country. The father had pity on the mother, and the mother is living with them now. So it's mother, father, son living together for the first time in many years. Oh, book club, that is so traumatizing. I just can't get over that. That is terrible. So she's with her child now, and she reached out to my husband, and she's still bitter about everything that happened. And our church in Tamarindo did her a dirty. They would not support her at all. They wouldn't help her. Even when she was living in a tent on the beach here, even when somebody came and stole her tent and all of her everything. And this woman has a license as a masseuse. She's quite good. I've gotten therapeutic massages from her before for my back. Yeah, I'm happy they're all together. Kids with disruptive disorders need love and therapy and care, not Jesus and prayer. You're exactly right. And that's one of the failures, I think, with CPS and with, especially with evangelical adoptions, foreign adoptions. They go in with rose-colored glasses on and they have no idea. The agencies don't prepare them for any of the realities of taking children who have significant issues. And I don't see how you could be raised in an orphanage, a substandard orphanage, for years upon end and not walk away with some kind of issues. I just don't see it. So they're not prepared in any way, shape, or form. So they think all they have to do is love the child, teach the child American Jesus, and everything will be fine. And it doesn't happen. The residential treatment center I worked at, approximately 55% of the kids who were there at any one time were disrupted evangelical adoptions. And this place only treated kids with significant problems. I mean, real problems. Not just a little bit of oppositional defiance disorder. We're talking 12-year-old kids with serious diagnoses like schizophrenia, bipolar, all sorts of things. I have mental issues too, PTSD and borderline personality disorder. But you go to therapy. That's good. I'm a good mom. Good. I'm glad. So they're all together. It's all good. Jan, Mars Hill is crazy. Ignorance of therapy makes me so angry. That's the key. Early intervention. Janine, same. I'm a big believer in therapy. Oh, did they? Oh, it is heartbreaking. It's a very heartbreaking thing when your kid has to go into residential treatment. But there are always people at those places that will love on your kids. I will tell you that. Not everybody's going to be horrible to them. The little couple from TLC, I can't believe what an excellent job with their adoptions. Absolutely. And family therapy and individual, that's the key. You know, when we left our high demand religious organization, we got therapy. Now, my husband didn't get much therapy, but he was so checked out for many years that he didn't need it to get over it. But my kids and I, we most certainly did. It was pretty awful. So, so I'm sitting here thinking that I'm going to have to keep track of this situation. But Costa Rica makes it much easier for them to pull this scam than it does in the U.S., and that concerns me. I have significant interest in that and this, and I'm concerned too because they are wreaking havoc. And the school here, I was not impressed with what they were teaching and how they were teaching it at all. I'm a mandated reporter now, and now you can't get CPS to do the right thing. Jan, sometimes CPS is shackled by local laws, by open and available foster slots, all kinds of things. And it's really a problem. It's a huge problem, and it needs to be addressed and completely overhauled of the CPS system in the U.S. I'm convinced of that. I've been clean 5 years, 5 months, 11 days. Recovery is possible. Book club, that is awesome. I love recovery. and Brenda Lee High. So that is what's going on here. And like I said, I am watching this and I'm going to keep updating this. This is another thing that I started taking random notes on with the idea of a book down the road, because this would be a compelling story. Disrupting children's education. Yeah, they are disrupting children's education. Here, homeschooling is actually against the law. There are a fair amount of Americans that do it, but if they catch you doing it and not vaccinating your children, they will tell you you have X amount of days to put your child in a school and start vaccinating your children, or you have to leave the country. There's no exceptions for that one. I came to this channel for the Costa Rica info. I stayed for the tea on American cult religions. I can't. Thank you for doing that. Even though I know I sometimes rant a lot about without a box of Kleenex, but it's just because she has stolen so much of my content. And I was her mentor at Pathos. That was a big mistake. I mentored a ton of people. I never had any problems except with her. They had one of my sons out of school for 4 months. Oh my goodness. Book club. The place I work, the residential treatment center, we had an on-site school with certified teachers. There was curriculums. I knew people doing the teaching. I was in the classrooms every day. Let me reject this. It's my friend calling me. It did real well. I was pleased with that. And they the whole idea of what do you call it, of disrupting education, it sucks. There needs to be education whether the child is in treatment or not. I've been in therapy off and on for 45 years, never gotten any medication. That helped bipolar. I know that's a problem. I know you're jaded with therapy, Tracy. If I were going that long, I'd be jaded too. So there's that. So I just wanted to say one last thing about the Don Lewis thing. He could have married a Tico. I don't know if you marry a Tico, if that gives you residency. Like in the States, you could marry an American and apply for your green card easier. How else would we have that delicious train wreck known as 90 Day Fiance, which I've watched some. My daughter is a 90 Day Fiance fan, and I am a Love After Lockup fan. So we managed to get each other hooked on each other's shows, which was kind of funny because we got together for a couple of weeks. And I picked up on her show. She picked up on mine. So disrupting education routine is so wrong. You're absolutely, they're formative. They're formative all along. Children need to know that their life goes on and that they're supported. And routine is crucial, I think, for children of any age. Don Lewis, if he married a Tico, I don't know what kind. I'm going to have to write myself a note to research that, because I'm not sure if you marry a Tico. If you, oh, she is determined. Okay, I'm going to have to go because I have a friend that's just not going to take no for an answer. That means that she's got problems. She lost her mother about a month ago, and it's been traumatic ever since. Okay, you guys, love you. I'm going to be back, probably ranting about new stuff sooner or later. Probably religion tomorrow because I got some distinct things to say. Book club, that's what she said. I don't know, because prostitution is legal here. Let me just throw that out there. Prostitution is 100% legal here. I haven't seen a whole lot of underage girls being trafficked for prostitution. There is a house of ill repute across the highway from me. I can go out of my pool deck and sometimes see across the highway and sometimes see their gate. And the girls that work there are not underage. I've seen them coming and going. So we're going to revisit Don because I have to think about this and do some more research. Because this has intrigued me for her claims that he's here. It's very difficult. It would be very difficult, if not impossible, for him to be here under a fake passport as long as he's been here. unless he's here completely illegally. That's always possible too. Love you guys. I'll see you later.